Hey guys, what's going on? It is Ash here coming at you today in Clash Royale with another pro tips video. Today we're going to go ahead and bring on Dylan towards the end of the episode. In the beginning, I'm going to share the 3 decks that he's come up with that he says are, in his opinion, the best 3 Lava Hound decks in the game. Now, a lot of you guys ask me, one of the most frequent questions I get either in the comments or on Twitter or social media is, Ash, recommend me a really good Lava Hound deck. Now, obviously, the #1 card that's comboed with the Lava Hound in a lot of decks is probably the Miner, because the Miner is just such a great proxy card that works hand in hand with the Lava Hound. Right when the Lava Hound is about to pop, you can go ahead and send in that Miner. Miner does some work on the tower, distracting it, and all those pups can kind of go to town and do a lot of damage to it. But I know not everybody has the Miner card, so in today's video, one of the decks is going to include the Miner, the second deck with no legendary cards, and the third deck with a log, which can be substituted, so hopefully everybody can stand to benefit from the video. Now, like I said, Dylan will be joining me at the end of this video, and what we'll do is go over a recent loss that I shared that I had with one of these decks, and he can kind of tear it apart, tell me what I did wrong. You guys seem to like that, and hey, who doesn't like watching Ash lose? And you know, it's even valuable for me because he's able to give me some tips in what I did wrong, why I wasn't having immediate success with one of the decks that he shared today. But before that, I do want to go ahead and talk about all of the decks that he shared with us today. First of all, I'm going to go ahead after this replay and flash all 3 decks on the screen for you guys. I'll also include a list of all the cards in all 3 of the decks in the video description, so if you want to try out one and maybe switch to another, or maybe you're confident with one card and not so confident with another card. For example, there's a baby dragon in one of these decks, there's a goblin barrel in one of these decks that are going to be some of your main combinations with the Lava Hound. You can go ahead and mix and match, but I'll include all that information in the description, so you guys can go ahead and check that out and maybe play around with the deck and share with me what deck you had the most success with. Now, the question of the day, before I actually delve into all the strategy tips that Dylan actually shared with me, is the question of the day for you guys is actually going to benefit you and me. And my question for you guys is, be honest with me, how many legendary cards do you have? And really important, are you free to play or are you not free to play? Do you spend money? Are you a dirty gemmer like I am? So let me know in the comments, and what that's going to do is actually give me a better feel for what type of content to bring you guys. A lot of these pro tips do have legendary cards, and to be honest with you guys, I like including content on my channel with legendary cards because I do like to include the very best decks of the game, or feature the very best decks of the game on my channel. So I do always try to make sure I bring you different variations of the decks, that way you can all play them, but I won't shy away from sharing good legendary card decks at the same time. So now that I've blabbed over that entire replay there, I'll go ahead and flash all the decks on the screen right now for you guys, one after another, and then we'll go ahead and get into the next replay and really dig into the strategy keys that, again, I was able to get from Dylan himself. So Dylan actually was kind enough to provide me, as I do with all these pro tips episodes, with a lot of in-depth strategy, really breaking down each of these 3 decks. So let's get into it here. While we watch this first replay, it's obviously a Lava Miner Lightning deck. So what exactly does that mean? Well, that's going to be your go-to offensive push. So you're going to be dropping your Lava Hound first, obviously. Then you wait for it to pop, and you drop your Miner, or right before it pops, I should say. And then you have your Lightning to play offensively if they play, say, an Inferno Tower, which is obviously the most common defense for a Lava Hound. It's also great against Musketeers, it's fantastic against Mega Minions, against all of the most common counters for a Lava Hound. Now, that's not all you have in this deck, obviously. You have the Minions, and you have the Minion Horde. This is Dylan's absolute favorite deck of the 3. As I mentioned, not everybody has the Miner, but you can still have success with a deck like this, even if you don't have the Miner, because you have all 3 of the Minions. You have Minions to bait out arrows, then you have Minion Horde to make them pay for baiting out the arrows, and then you have the Mega Minion, which is great on defense, especially defending the opposite lane. So let's kind of rewind a little bit here. We're getting a little too far ahead of ourselves. So when Dylan plays his Lava Hound, the first thing he's looking for is obviously the opponent's reaction. Now, most common, an opponent, especially if they have like a Hog Rider deck or maybe a Minion type bait deck of their own, they might go aggressively in the opposite lane. That's why you always want to wait to see what they do, at least while the Lava Hound's on your side of the map. Then you can make the decision what you want to combo the Lava Hound with. So always hold your Mega Minion for possible defense in the opposite lane, and Dylan says he really likes to drop his minions behind the Lava Hound as the second unit placed on this big push. Now, why the minions? Well, I kind of just touched on it, but basically Dylan's a big fan of using those minions and just waiting a little bit longer, seeing what the opponent does. If the opponent uses the arrows or whatever they have zap on your minions, you can be ready to go ahead and play the minion horde right afterwards. If they play something else and they don't necessarily kill your minions right off the bat, let's say they play a musketeer in the back, for example, then you can play your Mega Minion, assuming they didn't push your lane. You can play your Mega Minion as your third play offensively. Then you can wait for Elixir, save up for either the Lightning or the Miner or both, especially if it's in double Elixir time in the last minute or in overtime. So that essentially, guys, is going to be your main push. Now, on top of that, you obviously have the arrows and you have the log. Now, the arrows are great for Minion Horde or anything, you know, a skeleton army. The arrows, you guys know how to use arrows, basically. Arrows are great for protecting your pups, too. As soon as the Lava Hound pops, you can go ahead and be ready with those arrows. Now, the Mega Minion and the Log or the Ice Spirit is the best defensive against the Miner or Hog pushes. These cards are key because after you play the Lava Hound, you only have 3 to 4 Elixir left, so being able to defend with the Mega Minion and the Log or the Ice Spirit is a cheap and fast way to defend against their counter pushes. Now, let's go ahead and move on to the next deck, and we will touch on more strategy keys that will pertain to the first deck as well. But you can see here, we've moved into the next deck composition, and this is going to be the Baby Dragon variation. So this is the Lava Hound, Baby Dragon, free-to-play variation of this deck. The main push with this deck is going to be Lava Hound, Baby Dragon, and then either Lightning or Zap or both. So the deck runs Zap instead of arrows because Zap plus Baby Dragon will kill a Minion Horde, and Zap is obviously instantaneous and better on defense and offense. See, the other deck has arrows because there's really nothing to answer the Minion Horde combined with the Zap in the first deck. The Baby Dragon plays the role of the Miner in this deck in a lot of aspects. Obviously, it doesn't have that immediate proxy that you can send it to your opponent's tower, but once the Hound pops, the Baby Dragon will take the shots from the tower just like the Miner would. So essentially, the Baby Dragon is your tank in this deck. You think of the Baby Dragon as obviously splash damage, but on top of that, a tank. The Baby Dragon is your tank in this deck. So the Tombstone will most always be placed in the middle of your map. Let's talk a little bit about the Tombstone because it actually has a pretty interesting story, right? Because Tombstone went from one of those cards that really never sees a lot of gameplay. I mean, here and there, but it's definitely one of the least popular cards, at least before the most recent update. Not the most recent one, but the one right before that. We've had 2 updates in the span of a month now. So let's go ahead and talk about the Tombstone. So it's going to be placed in the middle of the map 90% of the time. Now, there is one exception to the rule, again, according to Dylan here. And Dylan says, if it's really obvious throughout the match that your opponent is playing a Miner chip deck, and it's pretty clear what tower they're going for, you can go ahead and put the Tombstone in the tower that they're trying to chip away from. What that's going to do is obviously distract the Miner away from your tower with the skeletons, and maybe even with the Tombstone if they place the Miner a little bit too far back. So a little note there, but obviously the Tombstone is a great counter against the Furnace, and the Furnace is also a really popular card that, you know, it was once really popular, it kind of declined a little bit in popularity, and now it is back. So Tombstone is a great counter because obviously the skeletons are going to meet the Fire Spirits halfway on the map and totally negate one another, and obviously you're going to win in that Elixir trade, so it's totally good as an answer to the Furnace. Furnace. I mean, the Furnace and the Tombstone both seeing a lot of action lately. When you think about the meta, I mean, Goism was always really popular, or at least it was, you know, for the last few months, which seems like ages in Clash Royale because everything in the gaming world seems to fly by. It seems like, you know, years ago that we didn't have the Princess and the Ice Wizard in the game, but legendaries were actually only introduced to the game, what, like 6 months ago or so? So it hasn't been that long. Anyway, let me get back to the point here. So basically, what I'm trying to say is that beatdown decks are everywhere right now, and one of the big parts of these beatdown decks, whether they're with a Lava Hound, whether they're played with a Golem or a Giant, is going to be these low-cost spawners like the Furnace and the Tombstone. So it's really important to have an answer to them, even if you yourself are also playing a beatdown deck. So we talked a little bit about the Tombstone. It has a decent amount of utility in this deck. Obviously, the skeletons can be parlayed into a big push, and if the skeletons can reach the tower while the tower is distracted by your Lava Hound, I mean, that's what the Tombstone is all about in this deck. Aside from defending, it actually has some offensive utility as well. So now let's talk about the main win condition of this deck, because it's a little bit different than the previous deck and the next deck. And Dylan says, if you can, this is for double elixir time. Obviously, there's no elixir pump in any of these decks, so you need to make sure you can pull this off and you're having plenty of elixir flowing in. So it's perfect for overtime. It's perfect for literally the win condition because you're hopefully going to win the match off this play. So in double elixir, what you want to do is get the Lava Hound plus the baby dragon plus the Mega Minion in one push with your lightning and zap ready. So I know what you're thinking. That's a lot of elixir. So there's a certain way that Dylan likes to go about achieving this. And what you want to do is you want to play defense first. So play defense with the Mega Minion and the baby dragon, and then put the Lava Hound in front. So as soon as they're done killing whatever's coming at you in that lane, place the Lava Hound at the bridge. Then you're going to go ahead and have your Mega Minion and your baby dragon already in the arena. So then you basically complete the Airfecta. You have the Mega Minion, you have the baby dragon, you have the Lava Hound. So now once you have everything ready to go, you'll have plenty of time to save up the 8 elixir for the lightning and the zap. And I'll tell you what, guys, that is going to be very, very difficult for even the very, very best players in the game to counter if you can play defense with your baby dragon, with your Mega Minion, and parlay that into a strong Airfecta push backed up by the lightning and the zap. It's gonna be almost impossible to counter, you know, especially considering your opponent just wasted a bunch of elixir on their push that was failed and defended by you. So the last thing about this deck are the archers. So there are archers in this deck, and people might ask, what if I have the princess? Should I swap in the princess instead of the archers? And I would recommend no. Now, I didn't specifically ask Dylan that question, but the archers are actually great, not just in this deck, but overall in the meta right now. I think the archers can finally stand on their little pedestal next to the princess and not kind of look up at her, because think about it, the archers are a great answer to all the swarm type armies. They're a great counter against graveyard. If you put your archers back in back of your tower, the graveyard, basically they're going to go ahead and sit there like they're on a perch and snipe at all the skeletons as they're spawned. And they're obviously also a great answer to the Mega Minion. So with Skarmies everywhere and Mega Minions everywhere, there's a great opportunity to play the archers into your deck. If you're struggling against graveyard, Mega Minion, skeleton army, and you're playing the princess, maybe consider swapping in archers for the princess and seeing if you have more success that way. So let's go ahead and talk about the third and final deck that we'll be sharing today. But before we do, guys, make sure you stay till the end of today's video where Dylan will actually join me via interview, and we'll kind of go through a replay that I had that was pretty bad, and he'll kind of pick it apart. So the deck number 3, this is a Lava Hound bait deck. Lava Hound bait deck. The main push in this deck is Lava Hound plus Goblin Barrel. Now, once the Lava Hound takes aggro, you're immediately going to want to throw the Goblin Barrel. Dylan says this is one of the biggest mistakes on this deck. Some people wait till the Lava Hound pops to throw the Goblin Barrel. That's actually a big no-no. As soon as the Lava Hound gets the aggro from the tower, then you go ahead and launch your Goblin Barrel. So once you identify the spells and the counters in your opponent's deck, you can use the rest of your cards accordingly. For example, if you identify that they have arrows and zap, then they can arrow your princess, you can send in the minion horde behind the Lava Hound, and they'll have a very tough time dealing with it because their arrows have already been baited. Now, the log is pretty important in this deck. I know not everybody has it, and if you don't have it, of course you could sub it out for another direct damage card, or even princess. If you have princess, you could do that as well, but the main thing is you really have to use the log to take out your opponent's princess. A princess, says Dylan, can be the absolute worst case scenario for your opponent to have without the log in hand. A princess is absolutely a bait deck killer unless you take care of her right away. That is the log in this deck. That's the use of the log in this deck. It's absolutely essential, guys. So usually in double elixir, your opponent will get pretty aggressive and zap, log, arrow offensively because they want to win and get your tower down. Then the Goblin Barrel can do a lot of damage. Also, if you see them starting a big push, immediately send the Goblin Barrel to the other lane, even if the tower isn't the one you're going for. What that's going to do is put your opponent in a very precarious situation. So what they can do is waste their log or their zap spell defending against that Goblin Barrel, or they can go ahead and just ignore it. In that case, you're going to do a lot of damage to their opposite tower. Fine by you. And really, guys, the cool thing about this deck is with the skeleton army and the minion horde, you actually have a lot of defensive capabilities, so you can still defend against the lane that they're going for that big push in. So let's go ahead and kick off the final replay of today's episode before we get into my match. And what we want to do here is, you can see he's actually going against an interesting deck here, a giant skeleton rocket miner deck. I like seeing these giant skeleton decks. You don't see a ton of giant skeleton play, at least before the last update, but now, I don't know. You know, here and there, you're starting to see a few giant skeletons pop up. I think that Molt did a video with a giant skeleton deck today or yesterday, and I think a lot of people are using it for that reason. So when a YouTuber that big makes a deck like this that's having, you know, a lot of success with it, it tends to kind of bleed over to the masses in some extent. Obviously, it is a little bit mitigated by the fact that, you know, probably only 5% of actually people who play Clash Royale watch YouTube. But anyway, you can see right now that Dylan's kind of in an interesting spot here. He has to play the Mega Minion first because the Lava Hound was not in hand, although it was the next card up. So it looks like he's going to play the Lava Hound at the bridge here. And okay, a Tesla coming at him. That is an interesting deck. A Tesla is another card you're just not seeing a lot of right now in the game. But the defender, Slan here, actually does a good job of separating that Mega Minion from the Lava Hound. And as you can see, Dylan playing it very smart here. He's not about to really force that push and waste more elixir. Instead, he's still sitting at 10 elixir. Well, he was until he played that Minion Horde. So now he can just kind of wait for the opponent to make a play, defend a little bit. Great miner play, by the way, distracting that giant skeleton away from the tower, and then he's going to be able to reload. He has the elixir advantage right now. There is a miner on his tower, but you can see he knows, again, he's in that same situation, guys. The miner is, the Lava Hound is the next card up, so he's going to wait till he gets the full elixir and again play the Mega Minion. This time he knows the opponent does not have the Tesla up, and the opponent plays the rocket there. Now, normally I wouldn't rocket just a tower and a Mega Minion, but it actually wasn't that bad of a play. He was at full elixir, the opponent now, and he had the Inferno Tower in hand, so we knew he had plenty still left to defend against the slow-moving Lava Hound. But you can see here, he uses the giant skeleton. I'm not sure this is going to be a great idea. Look at this, the minions and the pups get on that tower, and that's going to do it. As as easy as that. I mean, I don't want to say as easy as that because obviously Dylan's a great player, but you can see that once you're successful, you don't have to overcommit yourself offensively. Wait for your opponent to overcommit themselves offensively, and then you can take advantage of it. So one last thing before we welcome in Dylan here. He said that the Goblin Barrel, obviously any seasoned Goblin Barrel player knows this, but the Goblin Barrel placement is very important to adjust as the match progresses, meaning that you can start out playing it perfectly on the tower, and then as the match goes on, you want to keep your opponent guessing, switch up the spots. Dylan personally likes placing it right in front of the tower. You can still get the same amount of damage, and hopefully they'll miss with their zap spell, especially if they're pre-planning it. So you guys have heard enough of me talk. Let's go ahead and bring in the pro himself. Let's welcome Dylan. Hey guys, at this point, I'd like to welcome Dylan in to kind of talk a little bit more about these decks that I've shared with you guys, and also to kind of critique one of the replays that I just did. So Dylan, thanks for joining me, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Ash. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. It's great to have you on for a little bit here. Before we get into this replay, I do want to kind of, I share the decks that you shared with me so far, and maybe I just wanted to ask you, what made you an air expert? When did you pick up these Lava Hound decks, and why do you like them so much before we kind of get into the actual replay here?
Yeah. So when Goizen kind of took over, I've always been someone that wants to fight the meta kind of. And so I just always been testing all these different decks, and I found that the Lava Hound was actually pretty strong against them. They were weak to the air, and ever since then, I just can't stop playing them.
Awesome. That's definitely a few people in your boat, but you were definitely one of the early adopters. I think you were using Lava Hound, and I was like, oh wow, look at this Lava Hound. And now it seems like a lot of players are definitely using it. Do you want to talk really quickly about why you think that the air decks are actually, you know, viable in the current meta?
Yeah, definitely. So a lot of people actually think that Lava Hound is bad right now because the Inferno Tower has picked up in popularity, and the Mega Minion is obviously a huge card during tournaments. But I think that the Lava Hound is actually good in the meta right now because with the big nerf to poison, a lot of decks are only running one spell that interacts with the air. So before, every deck had poison and zap, but now decks have like log plus zap or log plus arrows. So what you can kind of do is use your minions and whatnot to bait the arrows out, and your Lava Hound can do a lot of damage.
Awesome. That's actually a good point there, especially about the log. It seems like a lot of top players are playing the log, and that actually plays beautifully into your hands and people like you who are air pros. And speaking of air pros, that's something that I am definitely not. So I thought that I would share this recent loss that I had. I just played a quick match, and I thought we could kind of go through it, you know, piece by piece, and maybe you could tell me what I did wrong, and maybe just give me a few tips here and there to improve my airplay. So, sound good to you, first of all?
Yeah, definitely.
All right, nice.
Yeah, definitely.
Nice. So, you can see I'm paused right now at 3 minutes. Let me know when you're caught up to me, and then we can kind of go through this match here. And feel free to tell me to pause when you want to kind of elaborate on something that I'm doing epically wrong.
Okay, I'm at 3 minutes. Should I start now?
Yeah, let's go 3, 2, 1, play. So, right away, I'm kind of bummed out that I don't have the Lava Hound in my first 5 cards.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That's definitely a disadvantage.
So I played the Tombstone. Is that what you would have done, or?
Yeah, definitely. Tombstone and Lava Hound are the two cards you want in the beginning. Because the Tombstone can provide you that defense while letting you cycle to your Lava Hound.
And then it turns out the Lava Hound still isn't the next card up, so I play the Baby Dragon, and then I see he has Royal Giant, and I'm like, oh crap.
Oh yeah, gee, your opening hand was really bad. You had the Mega Minion as your last card for the heavy damage.
Yeah, so I had no Mega Minion, and I had Baby Dragon, which was useless because he had the archers right, you know, tucked away behind the Royal Giant. So I took some damage early there.
Yeah, that was definitely a rough start due to your opening hand, but now you got the Lava Hound, so we'll see.
Yeah, so we'll see how I botch this. And I really want to get into a specific area about the Lava Hound play that I kind of struggle with personally. So I'm going to pause in just a minute here. So I play the Lava Hound, and now I'm going to pause right now at like 150 or so. So
Okay.
I play the Lava Hound, and my question to you is, at this point, he obviously has the Furnace up as well, and I have Lightning in hand. So how would you play this before we watch and see how I played it?
Yeah, so the Furnace is pretty low on health, so I definitely wouldn't consider the Lightning yet. He just pushed with the Miner, and so I would definitely put the Archers in the back so they can help take down the Miner, but then the Archers will be behind the Lava Hound for your push. So I would definitely put the Archers in the back to defend, and then wait to see how he plays it to see if the Lightning will be an effective spell.
Okay, great. So I'm gonna press play on 3, 2, 1, and there's my Archers, and I played an Ice Spirit there just to kind of help my building, you know, have a little bit more HP on it. So at this point, I'm just kind of sitting back.
Yeah, I'm completely fine with that play. The Furnace is really good right now, and I use the Ice Spirit sometimes to soak up some damage.
I'm going to pause again here. I'm pausing at 130 because now things get a little bit hairy for me. So he placed the guards in the back right away, so I know that Lightning's not going to be an option for me at this point. And I have I play the Baby Dragon, and at this point, like, I kind of think it's a failed push. What would you do here?
Yeah, at this point, I think it's actually looking pretty good. The Baby Dragon and the Mega Minion should take out that Valkyrie and go to the tower. And one thing about this deck is the Baby Dragon kind of plays the role of the Miner, in that once the Lava Hound bursts, he'll take the shots from the tower. So I actually think that the push is looking really good right now.
Okay, well, let's press play and see what happens. So, Lava Hound pops. My Mega Minion and Baby Dragon are a little bit behind. He furnaces up right again, and I'm able to get a decent amount of damage off, but the Archers, the Tower, and the Fire Spirits kind of take down my push there. So, not too bad, but, you know, not as lucrative a push as I was hoping for.
Yeah, not too bad. I would say that the damage you got is pretty successful, but I mean, yeah, the Archers are kind of tough to stop with this deck, I just noticed.
Yeah, well, I think I just screwed up defensively there because I let that Archer kind of, you know, that one singular Archer, I didn't really want to waste a lot of troops when I didn't even have a Lava Hound down defending. So I'm just going to pause again at like 45 seconds, and maybe you can talk about all the mistakes that I've made in the last 20 seconds. Because, you know, first of all, I let a singular Archer take down like 500 damage off my tower. I should have just Ice Spirited, but I don't know what I was thinking there. Well, I know what I was thinking. I just wanted to get to my Lava Hound and not keep wasting elixir. But then he plays the Royal Giant, and kind of talk about the situation that I'm in right now, and, you know, where did I go wrong, and is there any possible way to recover at this point?
Yeah, obviously leaving that Archer was a little bit of a mistake, but
so you would have Ice Spirited the Archer?
Yeah, I would have tried, but it's kind of hard because I think they can kill it in like 2 shots, both of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely in double elixir, a big thing that I like to do is just play my Lava Hound in the front.
Okay.
I mean, you know, to soak up some damage. So then like, the Mega Minion and the Skeletons can go untouched against like the Royal Giant.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, that was a little bit of a mistake, but I mean, it's not too big of a deal. I mean, you got to take some damage, but yeah, I would just say the Lava Hound. I use the Lava Hound a ton defensively, which I think some people might not think of it like that, but I think the Lava Hound is just really good on defense to take up the shots from their push.
Okay, that's actually really solid advice. So maybe, I'm not sure what kind of elixir situation I was in there, but maybe if I had enough, I should have played the Lava Hound right in front of the Archers before they locked onto my tower.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. All right, well, let's go ahead and press play again. I'm at 45 seconds pressing play now, and this is really my last, you know, hope at this point, because he's got my tower really low on HP. I have a Mega Minion, some Skeletons, and a Lava Hound going in. And then, basically, those Archers melt away my Lava Hound.
Yeah, that...
I lightninged, but, you know, I don't know. You know.
Yeah. I think it was going pretty well, actually. I think just taking a lot of damage in the beginning and the opening hand was kind of rough. But I think that overall the damage you were getting on your pushes was pretty much what to be expected.
Okay, so you know, realistically, you're thinking like 400 damage a push is pretty successful, or, you know, average at least?
Yeah, and then in double elixir, when you have like more, you can have a bigger push that you can kind of catch them off guard with a lightning spell that they maybe haven't seen, and you can get like 1,000 or more damage.
One question for you before I let you go, Dylan, is there ever a point in a match like that where I'm just not having a lot of success, or either that or my opponent is playing a really aggressive deck that I'm having trouble stopping the Royal Giant? Is there a point where you'd consider maybe, you know, I don't even know, like switching lanes, or is there like a plan B that I can go to here? I mean, I just felt like I struggled no matter. I mean, obviously a really bad opening hand, and the fact that it wasn't in my next 2 cards also was difficult, but beyond that, it just seems like I never really had a chance here, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, to be honest with this deck, I'm not sure if there's much of like a plan B.
Yep.
But with the other deck, with like the minions and the minion horde, one thing you can do is that if they're just kind of like pressuring you and you don't feel like you can get ahead of them, you can just hit the other lane with like a minor 3 elixir minion push and just kind of like get them to go over there a little bit.
Yeah, or even the other deck, maybe use a Goblin Barrel, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely use the Goblin Barrel to just kind of get some pressure off of you and make them commit some elixir to the other side.
Yeah, it's definitely good advice, and I think that maybe this deck, I just found a good counter, you know, in the Royal Giant. I think the other 2 decks probably would have done a little bit better against it. Not to make excuses, I've made plenty of mistakes too, but, you know, I think that I probably could have done a little bit better with either of the other 2 decks. But any parting words, any shout-outs, anything like that, Dylan? I just want to thank you again for coming on, spending a little time going through my replay. It's very generous of you to do so. Any shout-outs?
Not too much. I guess a shout out to my brother, Purple Penguin.
Penguin.
Nice. Yeah, but thanks for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
No problem, man. Thank you so much for doing this, and keep up the good work with all these air decks, man. I'm loving the having somebody who's you know, such an avid user and an advocate of air decks. So thanks again, man.
Oh yeah, anytime.
All right, guys, and there you have it. That was Dylan. I want to thank him again so much for coming on, for sharing his tips, strategy, and advice. Some really solid content here. I'm wishing you guys the very best of lucks if you pick up these decks. Good luck, and as always, take care, guys.